Hello and welcome to another episode of Don't Shit on the Bus. I'm your host, Adam Omokais, tuning in for episode number 76, all the way from San Diego, California this week, actually, because I'm out here with my girlfriend and we're dog sitting for my friend's dogs, taking a kind of staycation. I love it. I love changing up where I'm working from. Anywhere with natural light, count me in. I'll work there all day. Anyway, this week we have the amazing and very talented Jake Chams on the podcast. Jake is a fellow photographer and then some. He does not just do photo. He does photo, he does video, and he also does graphics these days. So, he's crushing it on all creative fronts. I was lucky enough to get Jake on the podcast. We actually had planned to do this initially when he was on tour, but unfortunately he had a little bit of an accident on tour and was injured. So he's been out of commission for a while. Recently, though, I hit him up and he was like, yeah, I can knock out a podcast right now. So we did it. And I've been wanting to learn from Jake how he balances photo and video on tour. I've got a lot of fellow patrons and supporters of the podcast who are photographers and or videographers themselves, and their goal is to get on tour and do one of those jobs. However, some people do both of them. And especially when you're starting out, especially when you want to make yourself more desirable to be on the road, it's always better to do more because, people get more bang for their buck and you're more versatile. So Jake talked to me about balancing those things, what it's like to go on tour with Panic at the Disco, Lorde. He also did content creation for the Hella Mega Tour, which was Green Day, Fall Out Boy, and Weezer. It's a big tour, man. He's a king of content. He's a king of creating it. And within content, there are different types of content you create. And we kind of talk about that too. So thank you so much, Jake, for joining me on the podcast. Big fan. Very happy I got to learn from you. I hope other people get to learn from you as well. And thank you to all the patrons who contribute weekly to help support the podcast. If you're getting value from this podcast and you want to support it as well, feel free to sign up for the Patreon. There's a few perks there as well. You become part of our Discord. You can talk with other fellow patrons that support the podcast. And we'll try to offer some advice and help there when we can. All right. I hope you enjoy episode 76 of Don't Shit on the Bus with Jake Chams. What's up, Jake? Welcome.
Hello.
How's it going?
Me. It's going. I like that we're doing our intro after we've been talking for a little bit, but
don't give it away. Hey, we have to do the warm. It's like the warm up chat to the chat.
Yeah, totally.
Well, I mean, usually I catch up with people on the podcast, but I feel like you've had super unique circumstances where there was a lot I had to catch up on before I could even catch up at all.
Yes, I agree. But we're here. Let's do it. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. Well, you're at home in Portland? Seattle.
Portland. Yeah, Portland.
Yep. Yeah. It's just straight up the coast. I think I might. No, I don't know if I have your location. I don't know if I do. I have like random people.
Yeah, I do too. You might have mine.
I think I have it because I'll check. I'm like, all right, who's in town? Who can I hang out with? Let's look.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool, man. I mean, I know you've been off the road for a little bit due to an injury and COVID, but I'm trying to think the last time I met you. Well, I'm trying to think the first time I met you, actually. I try to trace back my relationship with people and think. And I think I met you. Was Panic at the Disco your first tour or your second tour?
That was my first tour.
That's pretty
big
nuts.
Boy tour. Yeah, it was pretty wild. I'm not going to lie. I was definitely thrown into the mix very quickly.
I'd say so. I think my intro to you was Spud, who I haven't had on this, but is a mutual friend, was like, yeah, we got this photographer. He's good at Instagram and does other stuff, but he's crushing it, man. And that's pretty much the TLDR, right? You were just doing photo and you got picked up by, a massive tour.
Yeah. So I've done photo, camera, video, all that nerdy stuff since I was really young. Growing up in Oregon, I was big into the outdoors and taking photos of landscapes and that kind of stuff. As one does. Yeah, as one does. And that kind of slowly grew and evolved into a love of just everything digital media. And in college, I started this production company where we were kind of shooting concerts and events around my local college area, which is in Corvallis, Oregon. And we would put together these recap videos and post them online, and we would gain a little bit of social media traction. So that was my first intro to the internet.
What was it called? What was your company called? Left
Brain Media Productions. I like it. I think I want to bring it back. Yeah, I want to bring it back.
You don't have to say it ever left. You could just be established 2004 or whatever. You go with the the long term now. It's not new anymore. You've been around for a while.
Yeah, it's vintage. Bring it back. And I did that with my roommate for years. He would shoot video, I would shoot photos, and then I slowly was growing like a social media following because of that. And I was also shooting like landscape photos around Oregon. And then one day I literally met Spud at like a waterfall randomly. One day I was shooting
I
photos.
believe that.
Yeah,
You know, I met Spud at a like a hot spring pool thing in Australia, so we kind of have similar stories of meeting Spud.
Just randomly somewhere in the middle of nowhere, just Spud pops up out of nowhere, and then you're like, "What do you do?" And he's like, "Oh, I do all this," and you're like, "Weird." But he told me that Panic might need a photographer. Fast forward like 7 months. My good friend now, Thomas Falcone.
Never heard of him.
He bailed on Panic to go and tour with Big Sean.
Is that public?
So, did we just... That is public. That is public. Right, cool. And they drastically needed someone, and so they called me, and then I jumped on the tour with Panic.
Right place, right time.
Right place, right time. Yeah.
I don't know many people. I guess in photo, it's probably maybe happens more often than other places, just because of, you know, the experience you could have and be able to tour. But I don't know many people who've gone straight to a multi-bus tour.
Dude, I was very intimidated. I'm not gonna lie. I remember getting there. My first ticket was, they flew me to Texas, in the middle of Texas somewhere, and I literally just pulled up with my luggage. I didn't even have like, I had like a bat, you know, like tour people, they have like all their suitcases, everything's like proper, like industry standard, like not gonna get. I had like one of those suitcases your parents like hand me down you like for traveling.
Dude, I understand.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And
we started similarly.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't know where to put my stuff. I had to ask the tour manager, like, where do I put everything? Where do I like, what do I do? And
what's happening?
What's going on? And I didn't find out till like obviously years later, but they were about to fire me the first like 2 weeks of me being on that tour, just because I had no idea what was going on. I was like a lost puppy.
Well, what do they expect? You've never toured before. Like,
I know, but they didn't know that necessarily. They were like, they asked me, have you toured before? And I was like, I've worked with like a ton of artists, but I've never toured. And when I say I worked with a ton of artists, it was like I was shooting the first. You shot them when they came in.
Yeah. I get what you mean. Hey man, it's like, I feel like every photographer, videographer has played that game. It's like, yeah, I've worked with these bands.
X, Y, and Z, but you're like, oh, really? Never have.
Oh man, that's okay. I mean, so they hire you to come out and you didn't even know where to put your stuff on the bus. What was it? I mean, walk me through that like first few shows. And what was it like? I mean, I'm assuming the photography was the easy part. What was it like kind of learning how to tour? Yeah.
So definitely the photo and video stuff is why they kept me around, was because that stuff I understood how to do. I got that.
You're good at the thing you've done for a long time.
Yeah. And I could deliver really quick. I was giving them the photos like 30 minutes after the show. And back like even, I don't know, 6 years ago, that was like really fast for a turnaround.
Oh, 6 years. That's wild.
Yeah, they kept me around. And I remember one of the most embarrassing things was I was on the A party bus, because like photographers, you know, sometimes get A party benefits. And I was on the A party bus and I started brushing my teeth with the bus water.
The bus water.
And they were like, "You're disgusting. Don't ever do that again." I was like, "What?" And they're like, "Are you gonna like shit on the bus as well?" And I was like, you know what I mean? Like,
you're like, I'm not supposed to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Please tell me all the things that I can and cannot do, because I need to know.
Yeah, and I just want to touch on it because, you know, it's kind of like an educational podcast. People know what A party is, I'm pretty sure, but the bus water thing, I don't know if we've talked about.
Yeah,
you do brush your teeth. The bus water, because of how they load the tank, has the potential of touching things that you don't want in your mouth. It could be oil or other stuff. It's not a huge deal, but it is a deal. So people usually brush their teeth with bottled water, which is kind of wild.
Totally. And I don't think it's like, I don't think you're gonna die if you drink bus water, but
I do it still. I don't.
You rather not. Yeah.
Unlike shitting on the bus, it affects other people. Shitting on the bus affects everyone. Brushing your teeth just affects you. So if you want to do it, you can do it.
True. Yeah, and then the rest was just like the hang. I think that was the other part that I understood. That I understood pretty quickly was like the social dynamics of tour. You have to be able to like pick up. I think you have to be able to pick up on cues and social cues really quickly, and understand like, I can be in this room right now, or maybe I shouldn't be in this room right now, kind of a thing. Whereas I think a lot of people just think like, you're on tour, you can do whatever you want. You walk around, you know what I mean? You're just sticking around.
You make a good point, especially being a photographer, videographer.
Mhm.
With a guitar tech or a tech, it's like, okay, I'm usually working, and when I'm not working, I'm eating or something, and they're not
Totally.
really ever in a room they shouldn't be in. With the photographer, because you're with the artist, it's like, I don't know, maybe the management comes in and starts having like a serious conversation. You're
Seriously, and you're
like,
like, "I'm gonna step
I'm out.
out." Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Don't no, first of all, don't wanna be here. Second of all, I'm good. And so it was like picking up on those cues. I think I picked up on those pretty quickly, and I think people respect that because I wasn't, like, overstepping boundaries. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong as a tour photographer is they start overstepping, like, those social boundaries.
Yeah, what is that? Why do you think people do that if not intentionally? Like, let's assume they're at least, have good values and they're not like doing it because they're an evil person. Like, why do you
Yeah.
think nice people make that mistake?
I think the understanding that like that it's a job, it's a weird thing because it is your job, but it's also your life. So when you're on tour, like and you're in those situations, you have to be able to separate the like life moments from the job tour moments. And I
Hmm.
think that's something that a lot of people maybe miss out on. Like some moments, like everyone's in the room, management's in the room, important people are in the room. You can still be there. There's like times that you're obviously allowed to be there and you're supposed to be interacting and taking photos and having that interaction, but then there's also times where it's like, all right, this type of moment I'm not supposed to be there. And I think it's being able to separate those two is really important.
So, do you have any examples of maybe, I don't know, example of doing that?
Yeah, totally. I think like the what you just pointed out, like management comes in and they're talking about either maybe merch numbers for the night
Yeah,
or
like how much money they made yeah.
exactly
Yeah.
money dynamics or someone on the tour crew maybe they're talking about possibly like getting rid of or like there's an issue, you know what I mean, and they're like bringing it up. And then there's like the other one where it's like it was the first night of tour, management's in there to celebrate, like let's kick this off with like a bang, and like you
Yeah.
want to be there for that. That's like a good moment to
Because
be
you can
there.
photograph it or video it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can document that moment, but there's no reason for you to be documenting like taking photos of the manager telling the artist how much merch they sold that night. You know? Like it's
Yeah.
there's like these like there's these lines.
Yeah, you gotta read the room. That's a very good example because I've definitely found myself, I'm like, as you're saying these things, I'm like, "Fuck, I think I
You're
messed
like,
up sometimes."
damn it.
But, like, you get so comfortable and you're
Totally.
just like, "Well, they started talking about it and I'm in here and I don't feel like leaving, so maybe I'll just
Exactly. And you know
like,
what?
not pay attention."
For some artists, especially if you become like really, really close with them, like you're
Yeah.
able to understand like there's like a trust there, right? You've built
Mhm.
like this trust factor where you're like, I can sit here, they're not like, I'm not gonna say shit. They know that. So, but when you're first getting into it, I think you need to really like see those boundaries and like slowly grow into your role. Don't like, I'm here, bitches, like let me know
Yeah.
everything type thing.
Oh man, I hope it's okay. I just want to share a little bit of my own personal experience. As you're saying that, I do have a memory that came to mind is
Please do.
artists used to mess with me or their management. I would walk into the dressing room
Mhm.
and the manager would just look at me straight face and he was so good. He'd be like, "Get out." And I'd be like, "Oh shit. Like, I'm really sorry. Like, I didn't mean to do that." They'd be like, "No, leave." And then I do remember one time he was serious and I was like,
Yeah.
and he's like, "No, actually, you have to leave." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Okay."
So yeah, you're like, okay, cool, get
I'm like,
it. So
because it's so
uncomfortable, but
yeah. And it's so hard because managers, like, granted, to be a photographer, there's a certain amount of creative, foot facing you have and
Mhm.
professional. So you are good at some of the business, but these managers, man, they're like
That's all it
emotionless.
is. That
Yeah. And
dude,
they'll just
that's
be like,
all
"No,
it
you
is.
need to leave. That is the
Yeah.
fact. There is no
Yeah.
emotion involved with this. Please exit." And I'll be like, "All right,
Yeah.
later."
Sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting the dynamic of like the straightforwardness that managers like that are able to deliver and you're just like sometimes you're like it's so blunt you're like got hit with a brick you're like
Yeah.
what like your brain short circuits for a second and you're like let me think of how to respond.
Oh my
Hold
God.
on.
Yeah. Especially when you're in your creative zone, right? And you're like, "All right, I need to feel things and I need to
Yeah.
like care about
Yes.
things." And then somebody's
Emotion.
like,
Like
"Yeah,
yeah.
yeah." And when I'm writing emails, I have no problem being like, "No, yes, no, yes." In
Yeah.
real life, I was like, "Yes, but how does it make you feel?"
Totally. Counselor vibes.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, I'm glad I'm not alone on that. And I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
When I first visited you on tour, actually, I remember, I think it was not the first Panic tour because I remember the venues in San Diego,
Mhm.
but I came and saw you on I think it's Pray for the Wicked tour. Is that the second one?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
more than the second. And I do remember like I didn't really get to hang out with you much. You were quite busy, but I do remember like the kind of vibe that I picked up on. And you can correct me if I'm wrong here because I'm making some assumptions. Is that you kind of had this like little brother vibe on tour where like age wise, I'm not going to say maturity wise, but I would say experience wise, you were
Yeah.
just younger than everybody else. And I feel like you
Totally.
slotted in on this little brother vibe. Is that accurate?
I did, yeah, for sure. And I think that that was a slot that I realized was working in a way that could keep me around because I was so naive to everything and I really didn't know how to tour. I didn't know
Yeah.
like what I was doing necessarily. So to be just totally like openly honest and be like, let me know, like tell me
Yeah.
like what I should and shouldn't be doing, and taking what people were telling me and being able to like actually change what I was doing and deliver on that. I think people respected. And also it was like a little brother vibe where it was like you're like the annoying dude like poking in the
Yeah.
stomach over and over and
Let me
over.
take a photo of you. Let me take a photo.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, totally. And I think people appreciated that, the honesty of being like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Help me out, kind of. You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna
Yeah, that's
deliver
great.
as long as you like help me figure out what you want. And that definitely helped out. And to this day, I think it's funny. Like the older I get, the more I'm like, they're still like my older brothers. All those dudes, especially Panic.
Yeah.
That's like older brother vibe all the way through, from like Brendan all the way down to like the crew. It's very yeah, I love it.
No, I like that you talked about, being open to improving. And I think that really resonates with people a lot, especially in the music world. It's like, just do your thing and do
Mhm.
it well and be honest about it. And have you made effort specifically to kind of maintain, that openness to learning?
I think maintaining that spot is, yeah, I've definitely tried to do that because it's like, how can you fire your little brother, you know?
Yeah. Play
how
into
you
it.
how are you gonna get rid of me?
Me? I'm your
Yeah,
brother.
I didn't do anything. What do you
Yeah.
mean?
I didn't know I couldn't do that, officer.
I think also like that people, I don't know, like if this person like is going to continue to, no matter who it is, that this person's going to continue to try to like improve and change with how the artist brand is changing and expand their art while the artist is also growing, why not keep them around and why not try to grow with them together,
Yeah.
especially if there's like a good chemistry there. So I think that's a big reason I stuck around. I
Yeah,
hope.
you touch. I always try to think of it like, and maybe you can agree here or disagree, whatever. But I always think like the photography and the video is kind of the easy part. Like the stuff
Totally.
that really keeps you around is everything you just talked to about vibing and bonding
Hmm.
and getting along with them. But at the same time, you have to be good. It got you hired, right?
Yes, I think so too. I think there's a level of both, right? Like if you're an amazing photographer and a shitty hang, you're not going to last, and if you're vice versa, you're not going to last either. So it's like,
But the latter is definitely exists.
yeah, yes.
It's like I'm really bad at what I do, but dude, I'm awesome. It's like,
But
yeah,
you
that
fucking
actually works.
love
Yeah,
me.
yeah,
I
that
gotta,
actually
we'll
does
we'll
work.
keep you around a little
Yeah, yeah.
bit.
Oh man, do you think you're ever gonna do a van tour? I know you've been on some like 6 bus tours or something.
I would do a van tour if I was really into the artist. If I really loved the artist work, but I don't know how long I would be on that van tour for. You know what I mean? Like maybe
A
I come out
week?
for, yeah, for a week and then go home. But to be honest, that's kind of where I want to head anyway. I think down the road, like the dream gig is to come up with some sort of project, whether it be a book or a extra like side project for the tour, go out for like 2 to 3 weeks and then come home, and not
Yeah,
be out for like months on end documenting the same
agreed.
thing over and over and over again. That's like the dream gig now.
Yeah, I agree. I think that like documenting with intention outside of
Mhm.
like daily content that seems a bit
For social
transactional.
social
Yeah, yeah.
media, yeah, yeah,
And I think
totally.
that's interesting is that when the career started or became more popular, I would say even a few years before you went on tour,
Hmm.
it was just create photos. And then it became
Yep.
create photos and videos. And now it's become like content. And because it's such a large industry, I feel like there's so many subsets. And there's nothing wrong with creating
Yes,
content. Like I know
totally.
just talked like we didn't like it, but that's okay.
Yeah.
That's just not where we're at. But yeah, I like that you said that. That's great.
Yeah, and I think too, like knowing that there's specific people to hire for each thing is also appropriate. Whereas like not one person has to do it all. It's awesome if they can, but if you can't, then like just do that one thing really well.
Yeah, what's it like? When you were with these artists, you were kind of doing it all, right? Like what was your
Hmm.
responsibility? I know most recently you're on Hella Mega Tour, but was that different than your setup with Panic? Or tell me. I just don't know.
Yeah. So It's been different on every tour. For Panic, it was to create photo and video content. And my workflow would be essentially I would have one camera for video on my shoulder and one camera for photo. I would take like real quick snippets throughout the show with video, and then I would shoot a bunch of photos. And then backstage, I would usually do more video because that was the stuff people like didn't get to see, and I would implement that into my workflow. So it was kind of like photos is like get a couple moments backstage, a lot of the show stuff, video, a lot more backstage, less of the show stuff.
So you're sorry, go.
No, go for it. What were you gonna ask?
I was gonna say, so you're kind of shooting very much with what your final product was in mind. You weren't like shooting for a DVD, but then pulling for socials. You're like, all right, snippets, socials, some photos.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I knew, and I think going into that's really important because otherwise you get left with all this shit that you're just like, especially like when you're shooting video, there's so many different types of video. You can be shooting long form, short form, super short form for like TikTok nowadays. So it gets like really confusing if you don't have like
too many brains.
Exactly. If you don't have like an idea in mind of what your final product's going to be, you're just going to have a mess of content, especially when you're working with teams where you have to like float that content to other people and have them also maybe look through it. But that was Panic. Then like with Lorde, it was just film photography, which was so fucking sick. Because the dream, dude. I literally
just be an artist.
Just my film cameras and then like waited to get home and develop like 80 rolls. And it was like the dopest thing ever. I was just kicking it with my film camera, which was so rad.
Damn, that's sick. I love that.
And then Hella Mega was much different because usually when you get hired for a tour, like a whole tour, you're working with one individual artist and that's like your cup of tea. You're shooting whatever they want. With the Hella Mega tour, because there was 3 major artists on it and each person had their individual person, they also wanted someone to come out and just create extra content for literally like the Hella Mega channels and to promote the tour as a whole, which was a new thing for me. So it was kind of like go out and just create dope shit for the tour to kind of market the tour as a whole. As opposed to just marketing our one individual artist. That was rad because I had a lot of freedom on that to kind of like brainstorm with management, understand like what they were looking for, and then just go out and create stuff every day. And I didn't have to worry about like being in the dressing room at this time for this event that's happening, or you know what I mean? Like there wasn't specific things I had to look out.
He's in catering again.
Yeah, totally.
He's just in catering.
I don't know how much more you can shoot that, but please go make something cool.
Yeah.
Stand against this wall real quick. Stand against this wall.
Lorde sounds dream gig. Like I feel like, I don't know. Do you feel like when artists get to almost like, I would say Lorde level or anybody on that level, they do start to hire people specifically for one job rather than having somebody do everything? Is there something there?
Yeah, I think that's huge. I think a big issue too is some of the artists that I've worked with before really don't like having like photographers and videographers around. So when they find someone that fits that role that can do everything, they try to make them do everything or hope that they can do everything. And sometimes that ends up just being like too much work. But I do think that when artists get to a certain level and they're comfortable with having like, if they're having like a hair and makeup person out on the entire tour, like they're probably going to hire someone specifically for a type of art that they want created during that. So she would hire, like Lorde specifically would hire like a video crew to come out and create like a mini series to promote the tour.
Yeah. Like shoot a doc.
Totally. Exactly. Whereas like Panic was more so, can you please just shoot everything? Because we don't want other random fucking people coming in and being in our space. So I think it depends artist to artist. But I will say being able to do photo, video, 3D, like the lot of it has brought me more opportunities, although it has also brought me more stress. So, you know what I mean? It's like a balancing
act. You get
act.
Stressed? No.
Yeah, dude.
Come on. That's not very Bass Shop Pro of you. Bass Pro Shop.
Yeah, right. You like my hat? My brother got this for my birthday as a meme.
That's pretty sweet.
Thanks, dude.
I went to like a, what do you call it? A bachelor party, and they gave everybody one of those hats, but it said like Tony's bachelor party on it. It said like something different on it. And we just wore them everywhere. And people were like, wait, do you guys really like fishing?
Yeah. And you're like,
and then they look closer. They're like, no. Kind of funny.
Well, I haven't been able to cut my hair. Look at this shit.
Yeah, let's see it.
It's a mess, dude.
You want the AE special? I'll come on over. I'll make you look like an egg. Yeah,
Snip
I
that
got
shit
you.
off. I'm trying to grow out a mullet right now.
I think a mullet you get by You just have to remove. I think you're there. You just have to remove. What is it?
If I
Party
put,
in front, business in back, business in front,
if
party
I
in back.
put
What is
the
it?
back like that, I gotta go ahead.
Yeah. You look like you could tour.
Right?
Oh man, what do you think? Now that people are kind of doing all these different things, and then kind of to be on tour, sometimes you have to do photo, video. What do you think initially caused the change from people just having tour photographers to having tour photo, video people? Like other than the obvious, like TikTok existing.
Yeah. Well, what I think managers are starting to realize, like, oh, people, just because you have a camera doesn't mean you can do both.
Yeah.
Which I think is like a
Took them a long
recent,
time.
a recent discovery for managers. Yeah. They're like, oh, that thing can record though. And you're like, yeah, but I don't do that type of thing.
Yeah, it's like you write emails, but does that mean you're also going to write me a book? Like,
yeah, exactly.
It just doesn't really work like that.
It doesn't line up like that. And I think that's one reason. I also think that nowadays, tour seems to be the main source of income for artists. That's just my opinion, like between merch and touring and that kind of thing. And the best way to market a tour is to like show people that experience and get them to want to come. And you can do that by basically what I'm saying is you're getting your money back and more by hiring two separate people to be able to do that job correctly.
Yeah, efficiently.
Yeah, and your return's going to be much more than banking all on one person hoping that they can do just that one thing.
It's wild to me, like just working on the agency front now and kind of understanding how much photo and video people are paid. They do not get paid enough, man, for how valuable they are. Dude. It's so hard too, because I think, like you said, like when you went out, I'm sure when you first started, I'm sure you were like, yo, I'll do this for free. Totally. Like, I'm sure you were like, just take me on tour.
Yeah, for sure.
And that is a real aspect of the job. It's a very fun job. So I mean, managers know that.
Yeah. And I think the cool part about growing with the same management that I've realized, especially I've worked with most of the artists that I've worked with have been under the same management. And I think growing my art, they've taken a respect to that, which I appreciate a lot, because some management don't. They're just like, whatever, you're still doing the same shit.
Yeah.
But when they see growth, I think they understand that you're going to expect some sort of compensation change over time. Hopefully, you know what I mean? That's the idea. The scary part is when you get into a cycle of hiring a new person for every tour and there's no standard. There's no like base level for that one individual. Like you were saying, like individuals come in and they're like, whatever they pay me, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
You hope like over time that pay is going to get better, but what like the next tour around, they're just going to like recycle you out and get a new person. Like they're going to be able to pay them maybe less than what they were paying you, type of thing. So
it hurts too.
It does, dude. It really does. And it feels bad. It just like, it feels dirty. And I think when you're able to find those artists that want to keep you around, it's like really, really special and important. And you should like be sure to not ruin those type of relationships.
I agree with that. Like the connection with the artist is so important, because really at the end of the day, they determine who comes out on the road. Like you can get mad at management all you want but everything that management is doing is they're not making all those calls. I mean, they're bringing in all the other variables, but
it's coming from somewhere.
Yeah, it's coming from somewhere.
Yeah.
And, yeah, no, man, there's a lot of good stuff you're saying. I'm enjoying this.
Good. I'm glad. I'm glad.
Some of it's me just confirming some like biases I thought I had, but a lot of it's like, wow, this is cool.
It's real, dude. There's a lot of like harsh realities in the touring world. It's not all butterflies and roses. I mean, it's the music industry. It's like the most brutal industry on earth. What do you expect?
What do you think makes it so brutal? Like when you say that, like I agree with you because I've experienced it, but at the same time, I'm here like telling people to join the industry because I love it so much. Am I just a masochist or what's going on?
No. I mean, we're maybe being a little like Debbie Downer in a sense, but like you got to understand that it's like a massive business with a lot of people working under that business. And a lot of people just want to justify like the jobs that they have by like making a nuisance of things that don't necessarily have that much importance at the end of the day. And I think you got to come at it with a like a sense of, it's really, really big. The job description is really, really big, but it's actually like very small, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. People dress it up a lot.
Totally. Dress it up, make it more outrageous than it is, make it more stressful than it needs to be. But at the end of the day, like it's also the best job in the world. So I don't know. Yeah. It's like such a thing that you need to experience to understand. But then the moment you get there, you're like, oh, I get it now. Like I see it.
Yeah, that's a great. Yeah, I mean, the podcast, for just to tell you a little bit about it, is just educating people, hopefully getting more people on the road, kind of lowering the barrier of entry to the industry. And I'm working on a book that kind of goes alongside it. And
I love that.
it's just so interesting. Like you said, when you put it all down on paper, it is a lot. And I'm not even dressing it up. There's just a lot going on.
Totally.
But what you actually have to do in your day-to-day basis is pretty finite.
Yeah. It's like, take this massive business and then like, whoop, you're the like little employee. Just do your job.
But the cool thing is
as
you're talking about all this stuff, I think the thing that where it is, although your responsibility is very limited, your understanding of what everybody else is doing and their role they play is really key to your success. And I think that's the hard part to teach people. It's
yes, totally.
Yeah. So I'm experiencing that as you speak about everything.
No, I love that. That's a very important point. Like, know your role on the train and like to keep it moving, do your part, but understand that it's going to like fall apart if these other people aren't doing their thing as well.
Yeah. What do you think really sets, I know we talked about this a little bit, but when you've got, a photographer, videographer going on the road, who's more experienced, like maybe you now, not 6 years ago, what do you think, aside from your relationship with an artist specifically, sets somebody who's done this for a while apart from somebody who's just starting?
Yeah, I think a big thing for me was realizing that when I first got into tour photography, videography, I wanted to be like really close with the artist. I wanted to know what was going on. I wanted to be a part of it all. I wanted to see like every nook and cranny of what was going on in the tour world. Now I'm more experienced like down the road. For example, going from the Panic tour, my first tour where I was like involved in everything, want to have my camera and everything, and document every single little moment, to now with the Hella Mega tour, where I wasn't involved with any artist. I never went in a single dressing room. I was on the tour just to create content. And I knew my place. I was still able to get involved with the artists and like they understood like this person was here to like document stuff. I never was becoming best friends with them. And I wasn't, and I think understanding that that's like okay. And that's like that's also like a normal role is important, because just because you don't have to be the best friends with the artist to create like really, really dope stuff is I guess what I'm getting at. And I think that's a big thing that I learned over time.
Well, that's reassuring. I mean, it's helpful because, maybe before I asked that question, I would have thought that, an experienced person is a better relationship with the artist or better content, but that's just for one avenue. There's definitely other ways to do it as well.
And like, don't get me wrong, if you're going to be able to create more, like it's so important to have a good relationship with the artist, especially when you're working directly one-on-one with like, if you get hired for a tour, that's very different than I think getting hired for one artist on tour. I think that's very different than getting hired for the tour as an entirety. Does that make sense?
Yeah. What do you think would cause you, like, you show up for a tour, maybe not this Panic tour, but you get hired by a new artist, you show up for the tour and you start touring with them. Is there anything that you can think of other than obvious, like they beat me or something, that would make you not tour with them? Like something that's in a believable scope of things that could happen that you just wouldn't agree with?
I think a big one for me now is how they treat the crew, which is interesting. Like if you're treating the crew like shit and they're getting like the worst buses and the worst tour routes and they're not sleeping, catering's gnarly, like that kind of thing. I think that is played into like whether or not I'll be honest, I don't know if I would ever quit a tour. I think it would take a lot for me to quit a tour, but there's a lot of things that would make me redecide if I want to go back and work with the same management.
Not re-up.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I got you.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. What about you? What would be like the one thing that like you're like, no, I'm good. Like I'm going home.
I think I'm a little pickier now, but I guess for me, I think what you said about if for some reason I misunderstood what they wanted and I went out and it was more like constant content rather than like big picture. Like it's hard for me when an artist is like, hey, I just didn't get any good photos today. I'm like, I know, but
we also didn't do anything today.
We didn't do anything, and I'm here for the whole tour. So at the end of the tour, if we've got a collection of good photographs, that's the goal. But yeah, the stress of like the daily, and then I mean, like when I was younger, looking back, like I've stopped touring with any artist that like is destructive, I guess you would say.
For sure. Yeah.
I just can't handle that, man. It
stressful.
Trickles down to the crew, and it's unreliable, and it's gross, and I just can't hang. I need healthy people.
Yeah, I've only had one tour where it's been like that, and it was a rap tour. And I was like, I'm good. I don't think I'll ever do rap again. Oh, this is like Drake level.
Yeah, right. Like where it's a big job because it's you're not like intertwined with their social activities. The one van tour I did after I went to buses was a rap tour, and that was interesting because the rapper had never toured in a van before, and it was me. It was like us and his opening act all in the same van, and it was like it was crazy.
Oh my god!
We just did like Seattle down to San Diego, but
Still,
it was great photographs. Honestly, some of my favorite photographs ever.
Oh, I would love that. Being able to just pull over wherever. That's so rad.
Right? Like fast food restaurants, passing out in the van, kicking trash. I know you haven't toured in a van, but you like, there's definitely a lot to be learned, and experiencing that was interesting.
I believe it. I've done my fair share of road trips, if that counts for anything.
That counts.
Long-term road trips, like 3 weeks at a time, like living out of my car.
That definitely counts. The only difference is you get to choose who you're with on a road trip.
True. And you get to choose where you're sleeping that night. And like, I'm by myself rather than with a ton of people.
Yeah, we're at Carlos's house. His mom said it's cool. Yeah.
That's so crazy. I love that.
Yeah. What was I going to say? All right. So currently you just had your last surgery?
Yes, I just had my last surgery. So I was in an accident during the Hella Mega Tour, actually, like 8.5 months ago.
That's crazy. It's been that long. What a process, man.
Yeah, it's been brutal. I was stuck in Philadelphia for almost 3 months, in physical therapy and hospital, and then had to come back here, and now 8.5 months later, 15 surgeries, and I'm finally done. It feels so weird. I have chills saying it because like I just like you can talk about it as much as you want, but like the actual process it's so wild. You know what I mean? Like I
can't imagine. I know that like a lot happened and a lot is still being figured out, but is there a TLDR that you could kind of say like, hey, this happened? If not, no worries.
It was as far as the accident goes.
Yeah. Just so people know like what we're talking about. I'm sure they're like 15 surgeries, something happened.
Yeah, like what happened? Yeah. No, I got in a forklift accident. I can't get into like the nitty gritty, obviously, but
and we don't need to know it.
Yeah. Forklift hit me, not good.
Yes. You weren't the driver.
I was not the driver.
Key to the story. They were just there.
I was in the wrong place, wrong time.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that happened. And of course, it sucks that it happened while you were, working on a tour. Yeah. But I'm happy, given the circumstances, that you are still here and able to do a podcast.
Thank you, man. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. Prior, actually, we talked about Jake was originally going to be the first like tour check-in podcast. Obviously, that got put on hold due to the circumstances.
I feel like the day that it happened, we were texting, which is super weird.
Yeah, I'd have to look back.
Yeah, we definitely were talking about it though.
Yeah, I know I haven't kept in touch with you very much, but that's also because I know you have a lot on your plate. But our good friend Tom and Josiah kind of fill me in on. I'm like, wait, like I had a call with Tom before this. I was like, what?
Yeah, you're like,
I did not know all this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. And well, I mean, how has it been? Like, what's the healing process been like? I'm assuming you've gotten a lot of support from these people that you've toured with. And
oh yeah, man, it's been crazy. I mean, all the artists have been incredible. I had to run a GoFundMe just because of medical expenses, and all the artists helped out tremendously.
This is America.
Yeah, and I'm super thankful for just even my core like team around me, like my family, like my physical therapist. Like it's the amount of people on my team is pretty remarkable, and I'm pretty thankful for that. I think I've learned a lot too over this
I bet
period of time. I the idea that like I was ever going to stop touring or I was ever going to slow down was like never. You know what I mean? I was like, if something didn't stop me, I was going to be doing this. I told myself till I was 30, but I'm 29 now. So you know what I mean? Who knows? And so it's like a blessing in disguise, as shitty as it is. But it's slowed me down. And I think it's also given me a time to like reset on what I really want to focus on and what I really want to do. So I've taken this time to like learn a bunch of new things that I wanted to try out as far as like 3D goes and just life stuff, being around my family, being around my niece, like things like that I would be missing out on. It's pretty remarkable. And so it definitely makes me reevaluate where I want to be right now in life.
Yeah. So it kind of sounds like it had the similar effect that maybe COVID did on some people. Or
totally. Yeah.
Not saying that your experiences anyway is, easy as that and totally, not to downplay what you went through.
Definitely.
And I had a question written down that was like, what cliche things became true? And I feel like you spurted off a few of those, but when people are in those situations, it's kind of crazy how much stuff is just true that people tell you.
I know. And it's, it's interesting because it is cliche. It's like what are you thankful for now? And it's like I'm just happy to be alive. And that
Yeah.
sounds so fucking. It sounds so cliche, but like truly, that's where I'm at. That's like
Yeah.
where I'm at now. Just like taking in like the in between moments, like waking up and making a coffee. Like I'm stoked on that now, as
That's
opposed
great.
to before I was like, wake up, drink the coffee as fast as possible, and email thousands of people. Like,
Man.
now it's like, okay.
Well, you kind of, I mean, I like that you say that because I think that's really important. It kind of gives me, I read this book over and over called The Beginner's Mind, which is like a meditation kind of
Cool.
Buddhist look on the world. But you reminded me of it initially when you were talking about, when you got on tour, you kind of had this naiveness. You're like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just learning everything. And I feel like you have those intentions and feelings, and it's nice to hear you doing it with your coffee every day. Like, it's not like something you're rushing through. It's like, oh, just enjoy this thing.
Yeah. And I mean, still, like, I'd be a liar if I didn't say like my brain starts moving really quick, like very often, you know what I mean? Where I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, I haven't done anything today, but I've definitely gotten better about slowing down and being like, all right, I have a lot of life to live and I still have a lot that I want to do. So try not to rush it too fast.
I mean, are you, I don't know if that's too personal to ask, but are you like able to walk again eventually? Like, is that the goal, or you don't
eventually
know yet?
That's the goal. Before these last couple, I had like 3 surgeries recently, and before those I was getting to a point where I could use a cane. And then they just had to
That's
go
kind
in
of a look.
and they just had to go in and do a bunch of stuff. My friend actually sent me a cane with the sword in it. It was pretty fucking rad.
That's fire.
So you unscrew it and it's like a massive blade. It's like, how did you ship this to me? What the fuck?
Where can I get kicked out of with this?
Yeah, exactly. But the goal is to be walking in. Right now I'm on a walker. Can you see it right now? I think I pushed it out the way.
It's just a little bit out of frame. I see your skateboard.
Yeah. Oh yeah, my that's a snow skateboard. I'm excited to use that one day. I can't wait, dude. The things I can't wait to do is I can't wait to get back to taking photos all the time. No matter what it is, just like using my camera.
Don't you snowboard?
Yeah, I can't wait to snowboard. Like, that was before touring, that was like my thing. Was like I coached competitive like slopestyle snowboarding, and then I competed
fire.
Like all through high school and shit. That was my thing for sure the whole time. Yeah, man. I want to get back to that. I want to move somewhere sunnier. I need sun. Oregon. Yeah. I love Portland.
Come hang, dude.
I need to get down there, bro. I'm ready for it.
You should do I was in San Diego for 10 years. You should just do San Diego as like the in between where you're at and LA, and then eventually do LA. But San Diego's a good, like.
Are you close to Josiah? Are you near that area?
I live 2 blocks from Josiah.
I think I'm coming near you guys.
Really?
Yeah, like, I don't want to dox you, but I think I'm coming over to that area.
Oh, cool. Yeah. I live here. Volvo lives really close. Anna Lee lives really close. Like, and I'm saying like really close, not in LA standards. Like, I'm talking walking distance, all of us.
Wow, that's
pretty
sick.
Sweet.
That's cool. Yeah.
That's a good vibe.
My girlfriend really
Connor
wants to move down there. Connor, you're in LA? Oh shit.
Yeah, Connor he does not live walking distance, but he's like a 10-minute drive.
I live like a 5-8 minute car ride away, like right down
Connor's
the street.
Here.
Woo! Woo!
I always forget that Connor can just turn on his mic and join the podcast whenever he wants. Kind of like our young Jamie. But yeah, dude, come hang out in LA. It'd be great to have you. And okay, something else I've kind of been wondering, because I mostly I've done video, but I threw a GoPro on my camera or I made some YouTube videos. I wasn't walking around with like a steady camera or anything like that.
Yeah.
When you get ready for a tour, first of all, what questions do you ask to understand what will be asked of you? And then after those are answered, how do you determine what you need to pack for that tour?
The first thing I ask is if they're going to pay for my oversized baggage bag.
I need that hundy.
Yeah, I need that hundy. No, the first thing is the conversation with management as far as what they're going to want on the tour, whether they're going to, like we talked about, like if they're specifically wanting more photo, more video, and what that dynamic's going to be. And then after that, it's kind of packing for that specific thing. So for Panic, because it's both photo and video, dude, I'm packing my video camera, a backup video camera, a photo camera, a backup photo camera, all my lenses into a massive Pelican case. In my actual suitcase, I'm unscrewing I personally like the steady cam because it's, or the glide cam, because it's not electric. It's I can just like throw it against a wall and it'll still work.
That's desirable.
Yes, exactly. It's much more like utilitarian. Is that the word?
Yeah.
And
pickaxe.
Yeah, exactly. So I use that and I just unscrew it all, fit it into my suitcase, and then all the other stuff is just like packing into a bag as much as I can, and batteries after batteries, SD cards, converters, laptop, a drone, Gorilla Pod.
Hashtag sponsored.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Really, it can get quite chaotic with the packing. But I try to separate everything into like video, photo, and then accessories, things that I'm going to use for that.
When you did like Marshmello stuff though, and you're doing a lot more fly dates and not on a bus tour, how did you have to alter that? Like, what did you do?
So the thing about Marshmello is it was very specific. So for example, we were doing a lot of like Vegas dates where we would go to Vegas and shoot like residency stuff. And for that, it was pretty much just like photo and then like a couple video clips if anyone was there. They didn't really want too much like video content from the residency. When we would go on like a short tour run, it would be like bring like one more extra video thing. So I would bring like my Steadicam on the like tour. So we would do like a 14-day like Europe run, and I would bring just my handy cam, and we would do some really cool stuff with that because he really likes to interact with the camera when you're doing that. So we did like one clip where like the glide cam spun completely around, or like he would spin it, and we'd stuff like that. So that was like a fun interaction that we would have. But yeah, it's very dependent on what the show's going to be. Is how I would pack for it.
That makes sense. I guess like with Marshmello, it was a little more defined on what you need to do, whereas Panic at the Disco, you just had to bring the toolbox.
Literally two
what do you need today?
2 cameras on my hip, a glide cam like on my back leg. It was wild.
Dude, my dream is what you said for Lorde. Like, I love just showing up. Dude. I don't shoot film very often. I do have like a point and shoot one with me that's fun, but just showing up with like a 35 or a 50 and just chilling on that and just like tucking away in a corner and not talking to anybody.
It's the best, bro. And it's just, it feels like you gotta.
So romantic.
It really is. Like it really is. And you gotta think out the process a lot more. I feel like you gotta like, be like, all right, at this moment, I have to be here. This is like what I'm looking for tonight. Hopefully I get it. You snap the photo and then you literally don't know for the next 3 weeks if you got it or not. Like wait to develop
film problems.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh
but
my
it was
God.
Cool. She did a lot of cool stuff with the film because a lot of it was so blurry because like shooting a show on film is difficult to begin with, let alone when it's like a Lorde show and it's like intimate and low light and like it's like a lot of like fluent movement. So she did a lot of cool stuff with the merch as far as like the designs and like using the blur of like the photos into the merch design. She did a lot of stuff like that, which was really cool.
I'll have to check it out. That sounds great. I remember you had like a Lorde image when we did the raw editing challenge thing way back when, and that image was sick.
Yeah, I love all your podcasts, dude. You're getting so good at them.
Thanks, man. You're pretty good too. This was a really easy episode. Like some episodes are harder, but you know, we're pulling crew dudes out of the woodwork and making them talk for an hour. It's not like their specialty. Yeah. You know, they just got back from a tour and they're like, "You want me to do what?" But like, you know,
like, all right, how long is this gonna take?
It's also easier when I'm talking to, you know, my people. Like, come from photo, video. It's a little bit easier than talking to a tour manager who's like scary as fuck.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I mean,
of course, dude. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. We do have a question. It is not whether or not you've shed on the bus that we ask everybody. But I might have asked you when you did the raw editing challenge, but let's revisit. Shower shoes or no shower shoes? What's the vibe?
Oh, dude. Shower shoes now. When I started, I was no shower shoes and I got ripped on the whole time. Well, actually, I would get in trouble because I would take like 3 towels and lay them down and like stand on them. And then they'd be like, yo, what the fuck? We're out of like the crew dudes don't have towels because you're like standing on them all. And
wow.
Like,
you didn't read that room very well.
Yeah, exactly. So shower shoes now. Crocs specifically.
Yeah, but I think that Andrew Weiss, our last podcast, you know Andrew, tour manager?
I don't know, maybe.
Paramore, 21 Pilots, really good dude. But he goes, I didn't realize this. I've toured with him before, but he goes, yeah, I just wear flip flops all day, and then when I shower, I just continue to wear those flip flops.
Just through the shower.
I was like, all right, man. He's like, so shower shoes, yes, constantly. I was like, damn, respect.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Your shower shoes are just glued to your feet and on the tour bus and in the dressing room.
Yeah. All the time. Probably very clean. Yeah, man. Thank you for coming on here and talking for an hour. I appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you in real life. Come to California.
Yes, I will, dude. I'm gonna come soon. It's something that me and my girlfriend really want to do. So I'm looking.
Yeah, I've never met your girlfriend, so I'll be looking forward to meeting her
and my dog
and your dog. Yeah. Kailua.
So close.
Kailua.
Yeah.
Damn it.
It's
Island.
Anime character.
Okay.
It
Maybe
is.
I
It
do
is
that.
Japanese though. You're very close.
Well, Hawaiian names are like, are
Yes,
they
it is
Japanese because?
Yes, it's
Okay.
very Hawaiian as well.
It's all coming together.
Yep. Look at you. Look at you.
All right, man. Have a good one. Thank you so much.
Yes, of course. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. I'll talk to you later.
If you sometimes I have updates for the podcast that don't quite fit in the podcast, and this is one of those weeks, so I added at the end. It was a lot different when Neil was on because we could kind of chat about things, but it's been solo for a while. But unfortunately and sadly, one of our past guests passed away unexpectedly, and this wasn't from anything self-inflicted or like that. It was just from a freak medical thing that came out of nowhere. So Robert Noyes, excuse me, his name is Robert Ortiz. His Instagram name is Robert Noyes, was on the podcast. I think it was episode 34, 35. He is Mark Hoppus from Blink-182's Bass Tech. And we wouldn't have that episode if he didn't want to do it, right? It's hard to get Mark Hoppus on a podcast. He's, pretty sought after and well spoken. But because I was such good friends with Robert, and the angle of the podcast wasn't just like, we want to talk to Mark Hoppus, is we want to talk about your relationship. Robert was really about that. And he felt that, teaching was important. And he served as a mentor and a helper to me in the industry. So I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you, Robert. We're obviously very sad that you're gone and no longer with us. I appreciate your contribution to the podcast and to my life. Like, to my life, you helped me a lot. To give you guys an idea, and maybe you'll find somebody like this in your career. But when I find an artist I want to work with, it's usually like an organic path is what takes me to work with them. So something like, I meet somebody and they introduce me to the artist, or I that's kind of how I get through to them. And Robert was that for me with Blink-182. I bonded with Robert or connected with him because he's a photographer himself, even though professionally he's a bass tech. He also loves coffee. And on tour, I was with A Day to Remember, and they were opening up or supporting Blink-182 in Europe. And I met Robert there, and it was really nice. He would let me kind of sit in his area. So, he has a zone on the side of the stage with all of his basses and his tea he makes for Mark and everything he does for Mark. And he's like, yeah, come hang out here, take some pictures. And I was like, this is cool. Mostly people kick me out of their world. And Robert was just like, no, come hang out. And from there, he introduced me to the drum tech, Daniel, and to the guitar tech, and the tour manager, and the production manager, and the stage manager, and everybody I needed to know to kind of shoot from stage for Blink-182. And every shot I've gotten or been able to take with Blink-182 is thanks to Robert. In addition to that, he was just a very kind person. He toured the right way. He toured for a long time. He was an amazing father. I know sometimes people just talk about what they did professionally, and that's just because that's how I knew him. But I'm aware that he had 3 children. He was a great father to him. He was a great friend to everybody in the industry. And I don't know. It's just, I feel like a lot of people pass away in this industry because maybe it's just I know a lot of people, or maybe it's just their lifestyles. This isn't because of this industry that he passed away. It's just a freak thing that happened to somebody who happened to be in the industry. And I'm just sad that he's no longer with us. And yeah, I just want to say we miss you, Robert. We love you. We appreciate you. I'm so sorry you're no longer here with us. And I don't know. I'm going to miss you. All right, guys. I will see you next week on Don't Shit on the Bus. Thank you.